Ukrainian media on almost a non-stop basis, seemingly where I now spend my mornings appearing on Ukrainian media, giving opinions because on what is going on in the world, which is wild for me. Kind of a journey that this was, but I feel like I do a reasonably good job of sometimes portraying combination of what I see just living in the United States and the media that I consume that I can then share with my audience. And
Hmm.
then I'm glad to see that my ideas, sometimes joking, sip into mainstream conversations where I've been suggesting for a long time that Ukrainians should name something after Donald Trump. And now apparently there's a news that they're talking about doing, they offered turning part of Donbass into Donnyland, I heard. Did you hear that?
Donnyland, no, yeah, it's crazy. But, excuse me, I was just a little bit confused because I just received a chat in a chat that your audio was not audible, and so I just turned the volume up because I just still have technical issues. And that's why I put also my headphones, which I had on my head. I heard you perfectly. I put this now in front of my microphone. So I have no other. I'm still a dummy on the technical side, as you see. I hope I will fix this soon because this is too important.
Hello? Can anybody that's better?
And now I also lost. I was. It is stupid. I have this chat. There was a window with chat, and I saw this message of Carlos, one of the nice people who follow my channel. He was just writing, "I cannot, I cannot hear Yuri," and so I was answering, and now this chat window is also gone. Excuse me very much, people. Let's continue this talk as if nothing would have happened, and let's hope that for the next time it will be better. I apologize. Okay. Last time I had also the pleasure to be in the StreamYard chat where you had great people in Yuri. Okay, let's continue.
That is something that is kind of actually an important part of my story because I find myself, whatever I do, being a kind of a community organizer. And wherever I find myself, I like to organize the community. And where I live here in Rock County, I've started a couple of social media pages that have become quite successful,
Yeah.
just where there are community pages for local community. And so when it came to this project, I saw, thanks to Jonathan Fink, really, that there's quite a few people that are broadcasting about Ukraine, and everybody's got their audiences. And I think that this kind of a regular, hopefully monthly conversation of different YouTubers getting together and
Hmm.
sharing to some extent their war stories
Yeah.
is something that I think is a good idea for the community because so many of us are working really towards the same goal, and if we can get our information out in front of other audiences, I think it helps everybody. So, in when I was doing this in Janesville, I called it Community Coffee, and I think in this case, I'm calling it Marathon for Ukraine. We had our marathon, the first one. We'll see where it goes, but you're right. We had some great people there, and then Jason Smart, of course, is amazing,
Hmm.
and Lev that was there. Parnas, who is
Hmm.
running for Congress, but also has been a friend of Rashkin-Report and shares absolutely incredible insights about the Trump administration. His main takeaway is it's not as bad as you think, it's much worse.
That was a very very interesting conversation. And also, please have a look at Yuri Rashkin's channel if you don't know it yet. And there you can also follow up this very incredible 4 hours marathon Yuri was telling. And yeah, yeah, great, Yuri. That's true. What do you think that I put in the topic of our conversation today? Just the word fascism. Fascism, we have some issues as Germans because we had Adolf Hitler and his friend Benito Mussolini who invented that shit. Oh, hopefully YouTube will not cancel this word now. But what we see in the United States of America right now, Donald Trump, has this also fascist roots, or how can you describe it? I see some similarities. What's your opinion about that, Yuri?
I guess the experience here in the United States is that we do not have the experience that Germany went through. And so for us, we're trying to understand where we fit in world history, and what we should be doing, how concerned we should all be. Hitler's Germany has become a very convenient kind of a point of measurement. Okay, Hitler was able to accomplish this in this many days. Okay, what's Trump doing? Oh, is this better? Is this worse? Because at first that was the only measure that we even had of understanding what's going on here with us. And now we've gone all the way to seeing that in Hungary, they were able to get rid of somebody who fancied himself to be also a leader forever, and then people rose up and through elections kicked him out. So we are very much lacking this kind of experience. And so we're looking for stories and different narratives from other cultures to figure out what's happening. But we do have somebody who wants to be an authoritarian leader. When it comes to Trump, who wants to have, he'll say things like he wants to have Hitler's generals to be like Hitler's generals, not understanding that Hitler's generals were trying to kill Hitler, but meaning that he wants somebody who is just going to take his orders and march. And on that level, I think everybody took away different lessons from the horrific experience of the 20th century. And we also know that for Donald Trump, Hitler's speeches in Mein Kampf, excuse me, is like a bedside book, was at least noted in some kind of document. So we know that that is also a thing. Hitler, what he did with the world, starting with Germany, has been a really important story for us as we're trying to understand where we are. But I think one of the differences is that we are a much bigger country, and we're also with institutions that are much more seasoned than Germany's institutions were at the time. That is the hope that our judicial system, that our election system will able to, and so far we're seeing that elections are not going towards Trump, that in courts he is losing. So there is some resistance, but it's not definitely as swift as you would think, considering what the world has already seen. But we in the United States are hoping that somehow the system is going to work this through. And very importantly, in the United States, lots of people didn't vote for Trump. They agree that we should be seeing him for a much more dangerous person that he is. But we see that it is his base that remains really committed to him. And only now, with this war in Iran, they're starting to peel away because they didn't vote for this. They wanted to have a peace president
Yeah.
who will make, if he makes peace with the devil.
Yeah, yesterday I had some days before I had a great conversation with Gustav Gressel, who is an Austrian military analyst and security expert and Ukraine expert. And we also talked about this issue, and then about peace, about this peace narrative. And what came out, pacifism, Gustav said, is a tool which has always been used by dictators, that they want to mute, to put on the mute button their enemies, so that so Hitler used also this narrative that the Austrians, when they want to engage in weapons, They are warmongers, and that's why the pacifist movements in Austria were very strong, fueled by Adolf Hitler, and so he could invade without big cost. So pacifism is not usually always what it looks like.
But when it's backed up by security guarantees of the United States, then what's the problem? Then you can be a pacifist.
Yeah,
And in case of a problem, you call police, and the United States is going to come and, to fix things.
that's the
So it
problem.
seemed like it actually worked for a while. But
Exactly for 70 years it worked. And we here in Germany, we have been very good in pacifism. And now look at our German Bundeswehr, at our military. Today I heard a broadcast of our German defense.
tell me, Christoph, how does it make you feel to see that Germany finds itself in a position where it is almost being expected to and looked towards as being somebody that's going to be a major weapons manufacturer, perhaps a military power again? How does that make you feel?
I mean, I feel okay with it because I think it's very important to have a defense industry and a good military which is tough and has the capability to defend the country and defend the continent, defend our constitution, defend democracy. But we didn't have this. It was all the time. I myself was in the military in Germany, and I wasn't I was in the big band of the German armed forces. I was sax player there. We were very good at making music, but when it came to in fact, it's one of the best bands in Europe. I had a big chance to play in this band, so really proud of it. But when it came to military, it was feeling all the time like, we are doing something, but it's not very necessary. We have to, but we don't want to. We were flying around in helicopters, which are always 40 years old, 45 years old, and out of 10 helicopters, only 2 are flying, and the rest are spare parts taken from the other ones, and so on. So the equipment was going down all the time, and the German Bundeswehr is very bureaucratic. And this is a big problem. And since 4 years, imagine, since this full-scale invasion in Ukraine came up, we still have big discussions in Germany about, military, but you cannot, you know it yourself. We have had discussions about every tank which should go to Ukraine or not. And is this a defensive weapon or is it an aggressive attack weapon? So this feeling of pacifism is very, very strong in Germany, and it came always out of that we have been protected under the umbrella, the security umbrella of the United States of America. You, Yuri. It's interesting, you are a Russian, but you are an American. So I say I
The
think
irony of it. I am an American taxpayer. I am an American voter.
yeah.
I think that's the different kind of responsibility that I have chosen to embrace, and that's why it feels kind of embarrassing, because it feels like we're not holding up our end of the bargain, and it feels like this is trust that is United States losing. That's going to be very difficult to get back and regain. I do believe it is possible, but it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of money and means that will need to be expanded to show that we are back, whatever that means. And then who's going to trust us? That means that we have to show time after time as voters that we can be reasonable and elect people that are going to be behaving reasonably, normally, make America normal again. But I think that's certainly, on one hand, is a terrible thing for the United States because it has become woefully obvious that we're not able to provide security guarantees. But at the same time, I'm a big fan of clarity because I feel like if we can have clarity, then we're able to make decisions that are going to be useful. And I feel like what we're seeing right now is that the United States is not capable or even willing to defend allies, never mind anybody else, but just NATO allies, because if there's going to be attack on Baltic state, and they will say, okay, the NATO come on down and help us, and our president is going to say, well, you should have given us Greenland because we just wanted that Greenland. Why didn't you give it to us when you had a chance?
You know,
And that could very well be the end of NATO.
you know that is. We both had this fantastic man, General Ben Hodges, in our channels already several times, and Ben is always saying that military and defense, it's about logistics, material, and political will. And the political will, that's the biggest problem in our societies nowadays. And I have this other funny image in my this expression in my head, which is called Hotel Mama. So we have been lazy. We have been not attentive to the danger which is coming up. And what do I want to say with this? Hotel Mama, imagine a 40-year-old guy who has been living at home, and Mama has been ironing his clothes and washing his stuff and feeding this guy, and this guy is lazy and never had to work because it wasn't necessary. And we here in Germany sort of feel like that, and probably also the American population. They have been in security because America has been the strongest nation in the world, and the politicians, they make it. We can't complain about it, but there is no danger. So,
well, it almost seems like there is something to be said about a mindset of expecting somebody else to come in and fix things versus knowing that you cannot count on anyone, and either you can take care of yourself or you don't.
Yeah. So that's what Ukraine is experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me for interrupting you.
Right, absolutely, no problem. And considering that's a great example, and since Ukraine has no choice, it is really motivated to do well.
Yeah, and you also can break this down on the very personal level. Take a child aged, let's say 8 years old, 10 years old child, and then the parents get killed by a car accident or in war. And this child has to survive on its own. It's a horrible situation, but there are children who are able to do that. Some become criminals, and we don't want that. But some get good people. God knows what comes out of it. But what is sure, if you have to come stand up, you have to take responsibility, and then you make your way on your own. You cannot count and rely on anybody.
Well, I think that's a really great point, because I think personal responsibility is a concept that, unfortunately, I feel like in America we know more about than in Europe because of the different social structures that we have. I had a great conversation with a radio host in Germany in Russian about assimilation and services that are helping new Ukrainians to become better understanding with Germany and how things work. And I'm thinking that sounds really great, but the United States, we have very little of that generally, because you're kind of expected just to be out on your own and not break any laws. And if you break laws, then you're going to have problems. And other than that, good luck. And I feel that creates a very kind of a different mindset on some level. There is also, but then inevitably, and I think Trump is selling this to his base. He was that the government can help you, that you've been forgotten, you've been left behind. But we now see that Trump's base is that proletariat that was supporting communists, which is a lot of poor people who are struggling, who are looking for the government help, who think that Trump, instead of Democrats, who are helping anybody else but them. Now Trump is going to help them. That doesn't really, it's not going to work out that way either.
Yeah, so how can we, but in our conversation I had this term also, gray rhino, the gray rhinoceros rhino, which is an interesting expression, and I always come back on this. We see, why do I mention this all the time? Or just let me explain also to the audience and to you what I mean by gray rhino. People might have heard of the term black swan, which is an event which is coming up, a horrible event which is coming up all of a sudden and will change history, like election of Donald Trump. That's a black swan. Or like the war in Ukraine. Some horrible events are arising all of a sudden, bang, changing history. But a gray rhino, that is something we see on the horizon, approaching, and it will be horrible, and we cannot stop it. It's like a rhino which is running towards you, and you don't know how to avoid this thing. So, and why do I mention that? It's when we see Donald Trump is making the big mess in America and in the world, or when we see the AfD here in Germany is rising, even despite they are pro-Russian. Or yesterday I had a conversation with a French guy. In France, they also have this party which is called Front National or Rassemblement National. Jordan Bardella, the successor of Marine Le Pen. And they are completely pro-Russian, but they have the biggest chances to win also the elections. So why do we Europeans here, why must we be afraid that fascist parties, pro-Russian parties, still get the vote, still get the majority and take over the government, despite the fact that it will come out a horrible thing of that? I have no answer.
Partially, it's because you have populism where there's a kind of a constant scapegoating of the other. But when you have these parties that are on the outside of power, and all they're able to do is criticize, and we see that the existing systems are not solving the problems, we're more willing to listen to other people who are saying, well, just give me a chance. Everything would be different if I was president. And so we go, well, you know what? The food is expensive. Gas is expensive. If maybe these guys tried, maybe it will be less expensive. And I feel like a lot of people don't pay attention to ideology as much as they should. And they just think through what they think will be good for their wallet. And I think that just drives a lot of decisions. And then if it works out for the wallet, then those people are very forgiving. And if things don't work out for the wallet, then they get very unforgiving.
Yeah.
But I think that's where democracy really is rooted, is that it has to help people and make lives better, not just human rights or rights of a person or anything. And we see that Russia continuously supports all of these fringe movements with the same kind of a textbook, the same money, so to say. It's, crypto supporting all of them, and and the fear is that they will come to power. And I guess sometimes it's not bad enough for people to stand in crap; they have to taste it before they go, oh, that's not what I had in mind. Well, I mean, this is where Hungary gives us a lot of hope in the United States, and we see election after election where Trump is, a mark of a loser, but he's going to be able to continue to do what he is doing more than likely until the end of his term, which means that Europe has to stand on its own and support Ukraine, because the security guarantee from the United States under this administration mean less than nothing. In my humble opinion, write in comments if you disagree. But I think Europe has funds and Ukraine has the army, and both have a need. Both have the same threat of Russia. So I think the political will question is also an interesting one, because I think democracies are inherently weak when it comes to those kinds of moves. Dictators are much more likely to have the political will because they don't have the consequences to deal with, because they're being held together by like power and strength and shticky, and then pointy things at the end of the bayonets. So that's a different dynamic. And so it's hard to expect democracies that are not feeling existentially threatened to act in a decisive way. And that's one of the challenges of the system. This is where it almost seems like destroying Russia has to be like fighting viruses, something that's just so basic and simple and takes care of the problem that we don't even have this big decision of shouldn't we or should we. It just kind of happened.
It's just gonna happen. What? That that Russia will collapse, or what do you mean? No, the fight.
I mean, it's like hygiene. It's like washing your hands. It's like informing people about the Russian threat, about keeping people informed about what's going on and the disinformation that is happening. Then I think that it will be harder for Russia to
Yeah.
to sell their stuff all over the place. Communication, when you see the same thing happening from place to place, this is not something that's uniquely American. This is not something that's uniquely Hungarian. There's some patterns there, and that's where communication. I think our communication, our conversation, have some value.
Absolutely. Today I saw a great piece of Caelan Robertson, the Irish reporter. He is great. He's now in Hungary, and what he had to tell absolutely stunned me. It was that the Orban regime, after the loss of these elections, they are now in the moment shredding and burning documents in big quantities. Have you heard about that? It's like really the after the collapse of the Soviet Union or the collapse of the German democratic so-called republic, they were shredding documents, and those documents.
That's really great because there's a lot of people who are having a lot of doubts about Mr. Magyar, and if Orban is that nervous, then that's good.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it that this election was very good, and this gives really hope. My next thought was about. I had several thoughts. Then my first thought was, will they manage to get hold of some very important documents which will prove that the Orban regime, Orban and his cronies, they have committed big crimes and that they will go to jail for that. That's the first thing I was wondering. The second thing, what I was thinking about, what will happen when the Russian Federation, the Putin regime, will collapse, and this can also happen. I mean, there must be so much stuff they will not be able to burn it as fast as quickly. What do you think about that, Yuri?
I think that I've, been wrong in the past about what will happen to Russia because I thought that since Russia really isn't producing very much of anything besides natural resources, then once all the businesses are going to pull out as a result of the big invasion in 2022, that Russia will collapse and people will be eating soup made of grass. But it turned out that China filled in the space and Iran helped out here and there, and the axis of evil turned out to work pretty well. So, and I see that Russian people are showing an incredible patience to historic levels of abuse. And while we see that the electorate in Hungary, in the United States, is seeing that the politics of the government is not working for them, and they get rid of them. And in Russia, it's pretty clear that the same patterns are occurring. There's a failed war, there's a failing economy. So we can kind of figure out that probably his electorate is pretty pissed, but there's nothing they can do. And so I'm not really kind of concerned too much about all the news about economic collapse from Russia because I don't know how valuable it is if people are afraid to do anything about it. So they'll be poorer. Okay. And I know that in Russia, if Putin is deposed, it's going to be somebody from FSB that's going to take his place more than likely. And of course, that means that there will be different policies and it will be different czar is very important in Russia because one will be liberal, one will be, but I think that we see no reason to presume that FSB is going to lose its grip on power. And I think this is where we're ultimately have to decide, like in Iran. Is this Ayatollah's regime, then you just kill that one Ayatollah and you're done? Or is regime far bigger than that one Ayatollah? And, you at least have to take out the FSB headquarters. So I think that taking out Putin's regime is a far bigger and less plausible task that I choose to probably worry about less because it feels like we just have to do the right things and eventually it will collapse. Uh, but I don't have this like Russia destroyed by Christmas 2026. Like, it will occur when it will occur. We just have to do the right thing in the meantime. And when it comes to crimes that are being committed in Hungary, that what's going to be happening now, that is really crucial because there has to be, with all due respect, crime and punishment, and because crime is going to occur, and we see that in Russia, crime there's a plenty, but the question is what happens after? If there is no investigation, if there's no punishment, then you just continue to do the same thing, and we see that Putin has
Yeah.
been continuing the same thing for 26 years.
Yeah, that's what I am also thinking. Yeah, as you said, because when the Soviet Union collapsed, we were from the West trying to help the Russians to become democratic, and how to help somebody with money. And what will money do with corrupt people? Well, they will steal it. And so it was easy to enrich yourself. And so the Russians, the Soviet Union, the axis of evil, they were able to export their evilness, their corruption and their crimes and their briberies and their killings, instead of importing the good values. So this is a very philosophical discussion we are having right now. Um,
I would say it's actually extremely practical because you're right on. I mean, I think the West was hoping that it will be able to make Russians into like civilized people, members of modern society, by giving them lots of money and buying their oil and then allowing them to have those kinds of Western opportunities, thinking that money is going to somehow normalize Russia. And instead, it's Russia that used that money to corrupt the West and get more and more influence in different governments. And that's a very real problem because I think the trap that we tend to sometimes fall into is to look at Russia and say, look at, what a big country and what a tiny little economy. Wow. They have they're so poor over there. It's incredible. What can we expect from them? But I feel that if you examine Russia from its ability to improve the lives of its people, it's a failed state. But if you're looking at it from the point of view of its ability to influence foreign governments to act in its favor through corruption, I think it's doing great.
but
It
it's
has more than enough money
you,
to corrupt several people.
that's what I see. That's what is visible. They have a great power, a great destructive power. They don't have a constructive power as the United States of America had after the Second World War. America was building up democracy worldwide, and they have this constitution, which is on the paper very well. And if you fill this paper with deeds, with action, then it is a good thing. This I just take out a book here. This book here is called Memoirs of a Diplomat. Can you read it? And the diplomat is George F. Kennan. And George F. Kennan has been, he was the guy, he was the mastermind behind the Marshall Plan. And he was the ambassador of the United States of America in Adolf Hitler Germany, and later on he was in Soviet Union in Moscow, the American ambassador later on. He was not the ambassador in the beginning. He was just a co-worker in the embassy, but later on he became the American ambassador in the United States of America. And under the Truman administration, the Roosevelt administration before Truman, they were completely pacifist, or not pacifist, appeasement like. They wanted to deal, to talk with Stalin. They wanted to negotiate and come down on good terms. And Cannon was all the time in this embassy and complaining about this evilness of the Stalin regime. And then came this Truman administration, and George F. Cannon, he was kind of frustrated. And then they asked him about how to deal with Russia, the new administration. And then the Cannon wrote something which is called the long cable, the long telegram. It was a telegram of about many pages, 20 pages or so. And he wrote down everything. And this telegram influenced the Truman administration completely. And they said, we don't want to fight against Russia. We don't want to have war with them on the military basis, but we will fight them on the economic basis, because the United States of America is so much more powerful than Russia, of course, economically. Also militarily, but economically. So they built up Western Germany with the Marshall Plan. And they said, we have to contain Russia. We had just put up the Iron Curtain, let them let them be where they are, and make our own stuff. So this is, I think, the right solution. This is the right solution to deal with Russia. But nowadays it's not possible anymore, because the whole world is mixed so much with different opinions everywhere. Good and bad ones, true and wrong ones, lies and truths. Everybody is saying everything and nobody is knowing nothing. That's why it's really difficult to contain an evil power like Russia. And that's why the evil forces, they have so easy game to come through here. That's my opinion. Oh, I cannot hear you anymore. What's that?
I feel like there's a real challenge of narrative because the story that you described also had the conflict built in that was ideological, because you had communism on one side and you had anti-communism and capitalism and all sorts of civilized things on the other side, and that made things a little clearer. And clarity is good, because now we don't have Russia that's communist. We just have Russia that has the same dictatorship as it was when there was a communist party, but they no longer have the ideology of communism. God forbid. You want to own stuff? Go ahead. It's not a problem. As Vyacheslav Inozemtsev told me in an interview, who's a very well-known Russian, internationally known economist, if you don't have stores in your country that sell things, that's a government problem. But if the stores are there, but you can't afford to buy things there, then that's your problem. And so now Russia has shifted into that your problem situation, I guess. So I think that makes it blurs the line a little bit of what we're fighting about here. And I think that, to me, a lot of what this Russian mir, Russian worldview, Russian world comes down to is the ethic of strength. It's the idea that if you're strong, then you do whatever you want, and if you're weak, then you deal with it. And that's what Russia does, and that's what Trump administration aims to do. And that doesn't really work for pretty much anybody all the time, because that's why you want to have law and order. You want to have things that are predictable, that systems you can trust. And I think that that's where, because trust also creates economic success. And the United States losing all of that right now is a terrible problem for us, because that means we're going to be poorer. And because we still have elections, unlike Russia, there will be consequences. But I think that we need to somehow convey to people, and maybe that's already happening, is that electing authoritarian leader is not going to is not going to make us richer. It makes us poorer as people. And when we look at communism and capitalism, it is about relationship to money. It is about how we view the importance of material goods and whether we have some kind of a thought about what communism is or socialism is. It's a lot of it is about money and existing in the real world.
Yeah.
So I think the understanding of that and working with real electorate, understand getting those clear narratives to people that this is how you're going to be wealthy when everybody has equal opportunity and there's fairness in courts and you can defend your stuff, unlike Russia where it is general lawlessness. Then I think that's one of the ways to appeal to people, but it's a continuous conversation because ultimately not having that communism narrative makes things a little more difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Apropos more difficult, I, I see more and more that the Russians, they are having really difficulties. And let me just ask you a little thing. Since the news are out that Putin has throttled the internet or even blocked it for the ordinary Russian people, have you experienced that the pro-Russian trolls are less on your Russian channel? Because you have a lot of Russian viewers. You have so.
The thing that's been very interesting, and I wonder what others YouTubers have experienced, but I'm seeing this pretty widely spread now in the Russian language space, is that audio goes away after live stream is complete. I see comments from my audience saying, "Hey, where's audio?" And I actually got as far as I started to uploading streams up as videos to make sure that people have access to my videos because it seems like it's working enough in videos, but it's not working always in live streams. In general, I also have been very active about keeping kind of like picking up, sweeping, cleaning, keeping the space clean. So if I see Trump supporters or Putin supporters, I just automatically clean those out. If somebody says "Slava России," I go, "Okay, goodbye, bye bye," ban.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I'm not going to be sitting here and waiting, in fact, I have one troll that's dedicated. This person has sacrificed somewhere between 15 and 20 accounts of his that I banned, and he continues to come back and try to troll me. And if he's that committed, because I see it's like a variation on the same name. Sometimes he even gives me a donation, hoping that I will not ban him if he gives me a dollar or two. No, no, no. I can live without his $2. So I banned him too anyway. You got to do this for fun. This is where I think that being that, beholden to a number of comments, no matter who they come from, nah, I want to have a clean space in my channel where people can come in and have a conversation and offer their points of view without attacking each other. And sometimes people would say, "Well, where's your First Amendment?" There's no, you can talk, just not on my channel, but in other places, go ahead. On the other hand, YouTube will ban, without explanation, and then good luck explaining to them that it's your First Amendment right.
But did you experience some changes since the internet went down for the Russians or not?
Not beyond sound, and it's
no. I'm not on sound. I mean on comments wise. When the people make comments, did you get less troll comments now, or did you have the same amount as before? No changes.
I think same as before. For me, vast majority, well, not vast. I would say about 40% of my audience is in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And they were, as nothing changed for them.
So they are not in Russia. Okay.
Right, and a lot of Russians watch using VPN, so you can't even really judge exactly where that came from, except maybe if they're watching from some African country, chances are it's through VPN.
Mm-hmm. But because I'm not sure about that, but I have the feeling that on my channel, the pro-Russian troll comments significantly decreased. It really. Before I didn't have that much, but all the time I had something like 10 or 15 or 20 comments of stupid idiots there who say, yeah,
Well,
pro-Russia.
maybe that our content is no longer a threat over there because there's no viewers over there, so they don't need to care about you polluting their minds,
Sure,
with your evil capitalist content.
sure, maybe I'm not that important, of course. I have not that big a channel. But like this would interest me also. That's why I've been asking you. Because your channel, Yuri, you have two channels. You have the Russian language channel with about, I guess, 190,000 subscribers or something like that. Right? And then you have the
I have okay. I have three channels because I have two in Russian and one in English.
oh,
The English one is Rashkin-Report Perspectives because I feel like everybody there's a lot of different perspectives, and part of my strength is to try to explain different people different perspectives, how people see things. But I also have my main Rashkin-Report channel, which has about 193,000 viewers right now, so getting close to 200,000.
fair.
And then a few months ago, about 6 months ago, I started a Rashkin-Report news channel where I specifically put shorter pieces of video versus longer conversations because it seems like, again, YouTube, that's what it likes, that's what it wants. So that's what I've been doing is putting out on two different channels.
Okay, good. So all the best to you with this thing and all those activities. And I would love to continue our conversation. Oh, I don't have a beer here right now. Last time,
It's just a cup of coffee, but
it
it's a big
looks
one.
it looks like a German beer mark of a yeah.
It should have been. All right, maybe next time.
Yuri, and the next time I will have fixed the sound issue. It was something with routing. I guess your signal is, yeah. I will fix that, and so that's that's why I put my headphone here. And if some brave people have listened to the end, but it was big fun talking to you. Thank you so much, Yuri. Yeah, wish you all the best,
Thank you.
and see you the next time.
Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.